Hi, welcome to Chats Over Coffee with my yoga teacher. I'm Peter Brush, a currently on hiatus stand-up comic because of all the germs. And this is a show where I talk to my yoga teacher, Kayla McCormack, about yoga, the nature of mind, happiness, and loads of other stuff. Well, whatever we want, really. If you've been enjoying the show, thank you very much. I hope you enjoy this one as well, obviously. Please don't forget to subscribe and find us on social media. On Instagram, I am at PeterBrush_, and Kayla is at Kayla McCormack Yoga. We're on Twitter as well, but it's not as good on there, is it? Thank you for sharing our posts or for giving us nice reviews on Apple. If you've been doing that, that kind of thing really helps other people to find the show, which is great for us. So thank you. Anyway, here comes the show. Any moment. Like, it's about to... The next thing you hear is the show.
I think somehow I have managed to get at least a little bit of a reputation because I've been contacted by 3 different people to work in their studios that happened that way around, which is quite satisfying, quite abnormal, I would have thought.
Well, don't show off, because it doesn't happen to me, so no.
Sure it does. I'm sure you get people contacting you. You wouldn't have any work.
People are intimidated to ask me, that's why. Because they think, oh, he's too good for our night, or he's probably not going to do it for this fee because he's too good for that.
You know, when people are like, oh, let's get Brad Pitt, let's get Peter Brush. Oh, we can't.
Obviously, I've not been allowed to do any stand-up for like nearly a year. Part of me dreads going back, actually. I mean, you were saying last week, stuff's only funny if you've got a shared context and like all that. So if you're performing all over the country to all different types of people, but you end up doing like as easily accessible stuff as you can, really. And I like to think that I'm not like boring and I'm not hack or anything, and that I'm sort of trying to be as original as I possibly can be in that setting where where everyone gets it, but it's kind of uniquely you, hopefully. But you spend a year not going out and doing club comedy, and anything you write is much more tailored towards your individual. Like, you're kind of writing for yourself a bit more than you are writing for other people. And then I'm looking at all this stuff I've written over the last year and thinking, well, I'm not going to bother trying that because that's not going to work. That won't work on a Friday night. That won't work on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And, you know, someone would tell you that what you do is... Where are you looking?
Sorry, the sun just came out. It's gorgeous. Okay.
It's not too boring, is it?
No. I look at a screen all day, all right? Give me a break.
All right, fair enough. So, people would tell you that, oh, well, you save your most interesting stuff for when you do Edinburgh, and you can do an interesting Edinburgh show. You can do stuff that doesn't necessarily have to be clubby then. But even that's not true, because if you're an unknown quantity, people still don't go in knowing what they're expecting in an Edinburgh show. So even though you're not doing stuff about penises for 20 minutes, like in front of a load of drunk people, if they're not bought into your thing, it's still harder. So
there's a bit of a similar kind of feel in the yoga world with yoga teachers teaching like newbies. But I feel more like what you say, like it's not, you know, some teachers say like, oh, I really don't like or, you know, I really find it hard to teach people who are brand new to yoga, because I think that that's because they find it hard to teach people that are maybe a little bit unfit or something. But really, in my opinion, I don't really mind what fitness level you're at, as long as you're obviously signed off by your doctor or whatever. But like, that doesn't bother me. I think the thing that gets me is, you know, if when you work in a studio, it's quite common to get people that you've never seen before in every single class that you teach. So, like, you could teach there for a year and you will still get people in your class, every class, that you've never seen before. Don't get me wrong, you always get your regulars as well, that come quite regularly and you really get to know and you can help them and stuff like that. But you'll always get those people that come who maybe they're just like up here for, you know, work or something, and they're just going to drop into a class and then they're going home, you know, and you won't see them again, and this is the first time you've ever seen them. And some of them might be coming to classes that are like intended for people that, you know, like the vinyasa classes are intended for people that know what they're doing, and so maybe they know what they're doing, but they don't know you. And I feel like that makes such a big difference. They don't know how you talk. They don't know what kind of cues you say. You know, like, I just feel like they don't really know you. Not that they don't know yoga necessarily. I feel like that's more of a bit of a challenge, is making sure people understand where you're coming from. And that's why, like, if you don't hate the class, I'd really encourage people to try 3 or 4. That way they get the hang of how you teach and what your vocabulary is like and stuff. And then they can make a more accurate decision of if they like your style of teaching or not, you know, unless you've been practicing for years and you've been to multiple teachers and you're probably a yoga teacher yourself or something like that, then you be a bit quicker to judge, I think. But if you're brand new to it or newish to it, then sometimes, you know, you might find a class hard because you're not understanding the teacher, not because the class itself is actually hard or something like that. You know, you need more practice understanding the cues that are being spoken.
So it is like having fans, isn't it?
Yoga fans.
Yeah. When you say cues, though, that's absolutely right, because I know that what you're going to say, not before you say it sometimes.
Almost.
Why, you're alluding to the other day when I did the wrong thing the other day, didn't I?
No, it's good. I loved it. Yeah, I love it. I love it so much. I do that. The other day in my corporate class, I was teaching. Oh, so I'll cover this probably today anyway. But we were teaching the next niyama, and I made a point to do something on one side. We did our 3-legged downward dog during our sun salutation. So we put the leg up in the air and then had a little stretch and then finished that side of the sun salutation. And then when we did the other side, I didn't do the 3-legged downward dog. And I kind of did it on purpose because I'm a little bit mean like that. But I did do it eventually. But I was just saying, like, the whole emphasis there was just like, you know, how many people did it without me saying. So, like, how many people just did it on their own because they think, oh, she's forgotten, I'm going to do it. And how many people didn't do it and then thought, did we do that? I don't think we didn't do that. And I think that's really funny because that, like, goes along with this idea of trying to let go of control, especially if you follow my lead. But if you're a really good student and you've been practicing me for a while, you probably just do it, even though I haven't asked you to, because you're like, oh, well, maybe she forgot.
Which has happened.
Yeah. And the other day when we were doing I think we were doing upward dog, plank, upward dog, downward dog, plank, upward dog, downward dog. And then at one point I said, go back to a child's pose. And half the class went into downward dog. Half the class went into a child's pose. It was like, ha! I tricked you.
Well, I'm glad you're finding amusement for yourself during lockdown then.
I'm always reminded by that ridiculous part. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Hotel Transylvania, where that fly is teaching aqua aerobics, and then he's like, you know, hands up, hands down, and then he goes, and he spits into his hands and smears the, you know, as flies do. Yeah. And then all the people in the pool tried to do it, and he went, no, don't copy that. That's what I feel like. I could basically make anyone do anything I want, and you just follow along.
Power trip there.
Power trip, just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's all right. Everybody always loves it.
Do they? Well, actually, It's better when you're on your own at home and you don't feel stupid then for getting something wrong.
Maybe, yeah, a bit. I think that does appeal to people, but I've also heard the exact opposite. You know, people say, like, I have no one to compare myself to, so I'm only comparing myself to you in a sense, and you're really good. So it makes me feel less good because I can't see that the other people are probably more like me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. Well, there's always a good and a bad side to things. I kind of prefer it in some ways because I think, like, showing up in the first place is the hardest thing sometimes. Do you know, like, when you're starting to get into it, I think that if you're new and newish, and especially the first time, the first few times you go to a class, first you've got, like, is everybody at the class going to be good at this and I'm terrible? So you might feel a bit like, should I? And the other thing is that, like, people at the class know each other as well. So then you're also imposing on that. You think, they're probably very welcoming and nice people, but you know, that's a hang up that you could have, or I probably had before turning up to a class in person. So you don't have that quite so much online. I know that at the beginning you'll chat to people and, you know, you might feel a little bit nervous then, like, oh, everyone knows each other in a way, but it's a little easier to maybe deal with that if you're not sat next to everybody and then everyone thinks, oh, should we talk to this person? And then because it's me, I'll say something daft when they ask me how I am. I won't say the right thing, and then they'll be like, oh, he's a bit odd, and then I won't have enough time to rectify that before the class starts, and then I'll be, for the whole of the class, I'll be thinking,
have you only ever been to leisure centre classes, or have you always been to just
what?
Sorry. I was just wondering because this doesn't sound like a normal studio experience. If you don't want to talk to anyone, you just go get on your mat. No one will bother you, I promise.
I'd only gone to the leisure centre because it's around the corner.
Oh, okay. They were all very tight-knit at the leisure centre. Definitely. They had their little groups and they all got together, didn't they, in the back of the class, and would have a good chat. And afterwards, they would have a good chat as well. It's quite cute, really. It's like a social thing. It's good. I liked it. But I also think, like, when you work at a studio, you tend to get a lot of people that come in, and sure, they might have a bit of a chat, but a lot of people just went straight to the mat and, like, popped into a child's pose, which is, like, universal sign for don't talk to me.
That's exactly the sort of thing a hedgehog would do, isn't it? Like...
Oh, did you see what I shared recently about the porcupine?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Isn't he adorable?
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't like to get roped into this, like what animals I'm supposed to like, and
you can like any animal you want.
Yeah, most animals are okay, aren't they? I mean, I don't mean them harm or anything, but I feel like I'm just before I start thinking about how cute an animal is, I will sort of think, because we're like drawn to animals with like big eyes.
He's got a massive nose. Does that count?
Maybe. I don't know if it's to do with your facial features and stuff, but obviously we think some animals are more... I'm sure I read somewhere that it's to do with the fact that they look more like babies. Like babies have big eyes and big facial features compared to the rest. So we're kind of drawn towards dogs with big eyes and pandas with big eyes and... that kind of thing. So I don't want to allow myself to be tricked into thinking some animals are cute and some animals are less cute, because I feel like then I'm just sort of discriminating against...
Being animalist.
Yeah, I'm discriminating against the ugly animals. I don't want to do that. Right.
Well, I'm going to abashedly say that the tiny little porcupine is adorable.
Okay. That's why everyone wants to save the panda and they don't give a shit about, I don't know, some other thing that
lizards.
We don't care about. Yeah, lizards, probably. Snakes, I don't know.
I quite like snakes. I think they're pretty cute.
I don't know, I'm trying to think of an ugly animal. I don't know, some lizards.
Ugly animal. That fish. What's that fish that's really ugly? The one with the big droopy face.
I know what one you mean. One. With the things growing like a beard type thing on it and stuff. Or, yeah.
That's an ugly fish.
Or like a stonefish or something,
Yeah. A blobfish. It's the blobfish, isn't it?
There's a reason why the WWF don't have a stonefish on their like logo, and it's like I don't know, was it a panda or
It was a panda because the pandas were the first animal that they brought back from, near extinction.
Yeah, because they're cute. They didn't save the cute pandas. That's let all the other animals die, like the ugly ones. We don't need them. I wouldn't discriminate against an ugly human being, I would hope, over an attractive human being, even though I'm sure we do that so naturally, because they say that people that are better looking are more successful, aren't they? They usually find themselves higher up in roles, they're trusted more.
I read a interesting bit about that.
Is this why I'm not on TV, by the way?
Maybe. No, I'm joking. But it said, it was like a Buddhist article or piece or whatever thing that I was reading about, the effects of karma. So like, even if you don't like the idea of death and rebirth as a human, like the literally dying and being reborn into a new body or whatever, your consciousness or your soul, even if you don't like that idea, I quite like the idea of karma from a point of view that every action you have will have some sort of reaction at some point in time. Everything you choose to do is a choice, and that will affect your life. So I kind of like it from that point of view. But one of the things it said was that, you kind of accumulate this negative karma, this bad karma, and eventually that, comes through into your lives if you were thinking in multiple lives. And one of the things it just said in like one sentence was ugly people had bad karma in their previous life. And I was like, oh, that's awfully blunt. Not sure how I feel about that.
That's justifying suspicion of ugly people, isn't it? That's like
I feel like it, yeah.
I'm not sure I should trust him with my money because what did he do in a previous life? Because
he's ugly, so he must have done something dodgy in a past life. Don't necessarily agree with that one.
I think I'd rather be an attractive dog than an ugly human. I think you'd get a lot more attention, wouldn't you?
Yeah, these days.
Yeah. And the thing is also, like, you would be an attractive dog for, like, 12 years, and so even if, like, you miss the human privileges, you only have to do it for 12 years, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, if you have to go back in time and be an ant,
Ugh.
that'd be a bit rubbish, but it won't last as long.
Yeah, but how long do you have to live as an ant? How many ant lives do you have to live before you can upgrade to, like, I don't know, bird life?
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Yeah. You have to really pull your weight, like, cutting leaves, wouldn't you? So.
Right. Shall I just quickly talk about our final niyama?
Yeah. Yeah, so
Did you do Tuesday's class?
No, not the lunchtime one, though.
No. Okay, so this is all new for you.
It is, but I know what the topic is, so I'm hoping I can chip in a little bit. So.
Okay, so the fifth niyama in our list is Isvara Pranidhana. It's a tongue twister.
Do you want to say that again so that we've got a better cut for the...
Sure. Isvara Pranidhana?
Okay. I'm going to keep them both in because it's funny to say it again.
Thanks. How many times are you going to get me to say it? No. You have to say it 10 times fast. Then you understand it. It's like a magic trick, like Beetlejuice. If you say it 10 times fast, it just all of a sudden you understand it. So, it basically just means surrender. Or if you look into it more, it's more like surrender to a higher power. But I know that a lot of people don't really take to that. Like, as soon as you say surrender to God, that we've talked about this before, that's shut off. And nobody's listening anymore because they're like, that sounds stupid. But the idea of just letting go and of the things we can't control, that for me, that is the basis of it. That is the general idea, which we did talk about, actually.
We did exactly talk about that, and with the God sort of thing in it. And also, you know that the literal translation of Islam is submission, I think. So I think that's what they say in Islam, is just submitting yourself totally to God.
Yeah.
And his whims. Whatever his plan is for you. He's got a plan for you, you can't change that. So just...
Sounds a bit ominous when you put it like that. No, God, does it?
You can't appeal and say, oh, well, I had these other ideas. No, he's got to do what he says.
Well, there's the other thing. There's this idea that in certain like spiritual things, I don't know if they believe this literally or not, but this is like an example. But like the idea that there's a space in between your lives. So if you believe in multiple lives, there's a space in between. And in that space between lives, you kind of make a decision on what you want to learn. So like, I want to learn perseverance or patience or anger management or something like
French.
that. And then you're not French. And then you're put into and then the idea is that you're reborn into a life where you will have that challenge, and then you can learn that,
so France,
or not. Not French. Not France, no. But like if you were born into a really poor family or something, you might learn something different than if you were born into a really rich family or really mean family or whatever. Anyway, but what I'm basically saying is that you have no control over a lot of stuff, which is what we talked about before, about not having to have control of the weather, thank God. And but there's the idea, you can't control who your parents were. You can't control what country you were born in. For the most part, you can't really control what you look like. I mean, sure, we can all try and be our healthiest versions of ourselves, but unless you go under the knife, you can't control what shape your nose is. And we have to find a little bit of peace with that, hopefully. Because if not, you put yourself through a lot of harm, don't you? I don't necessarily agree with all the plastic surgery for no reason. There's definitely a place for good plastic surgeons. Accidents happen, but I don't think that perfectly good people should be chopping themselves up all the time.
They look worse sometimes anyway, or often.
Oh yeah,
actually.
I think so.
Yeah. I think it's just a slippery slope. You start trying to correct something and it's not going to quite look right, so you're going to do something else to it, and then you turn into Michael Jackson.
Or maybe you like it and you think that maybe you need giant lips. No, thank you. But anyway, so ignoring the fact that you could probably change a lot of stuff, trying to just find peace with it is a better idea.
Yeah, for the time being, until they can, have designer babies and sort of change your genes.
Oh God, that sounds like a recipe for a disaster.
I don't know how the Human Genome Project is getting on at the moment, but do you know much about it?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't like this idea. This sounds horrible. Because even if you did pop out a lot of perfect babies, what's perfect?
Yeah.
You want lush eyebrows or teeny tiny skinny eyebrows?
Well, unfortunately, that thing about Sally Phillips didn't make the cut weeks ago, but you're talking about the fact that she has a Down syndrome child, and that adds to the diversity of all human experiences. So if as time goes on, I would like to keep this in, but hopefully it doesn't lose the context. So she's got, the actress Sally Phillips has got a kid with Down syndrome, but she's very positive about the fact that it's adds a new dimension to her life, and that if you were able to intervene early enough so that there were no Down syndrome children in the world ever, you would lose a specific human experience way of seeing the world, and become more homogenized. We'd all see things exactly the same way. It wouldn't add to the overall human experience, and kind of agree with that. It's like,
yeah, I agree.
I mean, otherwise you're just going to be pumping out attractive sort of white people for everyone,
glamorous people. Glamorous people with their beautiful skin and their very plump lips, apparently.
Presumably, people don't necessarily find the Hollywood standard of beauty as their ideal anyway, do they? I would have thought.
No. I mean, I think that there's so much that we can't change about ourselves, but what you can change is just try, is just to be the healthiest version of you. I'm not saying that you should kill yourself trying to get there as well. I mean, there is a balance with that too, but I just mean, like, if you're doing everything and you think, yes, I'm healthy, I've got healthy muscle mass, I've got, I'm careful about what I eat and what I drink, all around, I'm pretty happy, I don't smoke, whatever, all these big things that you could do, I'm pretty happy, I'm a healthy, happy person. Then you kind of like, that's it. That is what you look like. And if you don't think you're beautiful, that's something that you need to work on. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look nice and stuff, but really, it should always come from just a health perspective. You should just be the healthiest version of you. And that's that. And it's funny because I've actually been watching Baywatch.
Yeah.
Which has this horrendous reputation for being obviously half-naked, beautiful people or whatever. But to be honest, they're not all beautiful. They look pretty, some's got big nose, some's got big eyebrows, kind of all these things that you could pick out if you wanted to. But the thing they all have in common, though, is that they're all obviously trying to be really healthy. And whether that's fake or not, is up for debate, obviously, when it comes to Hollywood. But in general, as a character, they're all supposed to be really healthy. They swim every day. They run around literally every day. They're always doing stuff. So they're supposed to be really healthy people. They have a gym and stuff that they're always lifting weights and shit. So, like the idea is that they're really healthy people. And so that's why they look the way they do. But to be honest, not all of them are, no way.
Okay. I don't think I'll be watching it, but yeah.
There's too much judgment about it. If you tell people you're watching Baywatch, the first thing they do is go, oh yeah. You're watching Baywatch, are you? Yeah. Pamela Anderson. Pamela Anderson's not even in it yet.
All right. I don't know. What did it go on for? Let's stop talking about Baywatch, for fuck's sake. We haven't got all the time in the world. I'm going to be talking about Baywatch for most of it.
So what else did you want to talk about before we finish? Because I'm conscious of the time. And my laptop just dropped down to 19%.
19? Oh, God. So there really is I don't know. I've talked about the illusion of control and stuff before, haven't I? So, probably not my observation, but you know how they always say that, it's safer to travel on a plane than it is, like, driving to the airport is more dangerous than the actual plane.
Yeah.
But you often feel more nervous about flying in a plane than driving to the airport partly because obviously a plane crash is more potentially horrific than crashing a car. You might be a minor crash. I don't know. There's the illusion of control when you're driving a car. Yeah. You think, oh well, I'll sort it. If something happens, I'll still be able to weasel my way out of it somehow by like turning the steering wheel a few times or something, or doing something that James Bond would do or something. But
I'll James Bond it.
Yeah. So you think you're in control, like behind the car, but even then, there's still so much that you're not in control of conditions, you're not in control of any of the other drivers, you're not in control of, whether there's a malfunction on the traffic lights or whatever, are you? But you feel like you're in control because you're sitting by a steering wheel and some pedals. So that's got nothing to do with surrendering, I suppose. But
well, it kind of does, because that's the idea. Is you're trying to let go of the idea that realistically you're not in control. Because like you're saying, like, sure, you've got this illusion of control, if you're driving over what you're saying, you're either taking a plane or whatever. But really, you're not, because there's so much you can't control about that it doesn't, you're basically not in control. I think when people think about like having control in their lives, I think, a lot of people think like, oh, but I have no control, like, oh, I've got all these like obligations and things. And it's like, well, really, even obligations are your choice. There's a lot of things that we do actually have control over. But I suppose the idea behind surrender is letting go of the things that you really don't have control over. But I suppose the first step is being able to identify what that could be and what that isn't. Because like, yeah, sure, you have control over how your books go on your shelf, and maybe that makes you feel better if you know everything is tidy and in its place. But you don't have control over who's going to come and knock on your door. If you're going to get like one of those charity guys coming around, give me money. Oh, please support our charity. Oh, go away.
No, that makes us sound lovely.
I like what we said in episode 9 about like letting go of that control and being happy with that. I think that was really quite applicable to this.
There's a load of arguments about free will and stuff that I think are sort of connected, but there's not enough time to talk about that. But I feel
that's an interesting topic. I think we could cover that in the next.
Yeah, can do.
The pen. I think we could cover that in the next one. I shouldn't hold pens. I'll keep pressing it if I.
It's good you laugh a lot, because I feel like, I'm not saying that as if like I'm so needy that I need the validation in that sort of sense. I'm not saying that. Do you laugh at everything though, or are you selective about what you laugh about? Or
I don't think I laugh at everything.
It's more of a challenge to make someone that doesn't laugh that much laugh than it is to make someone that always laughs laugh. Do you know? So, in a way, I want you to say, oh, no one ever really makes me laugh, actually.
I never laugh, ever.
No. It's like when I started to try and make my nan laugh, because I don't remember her smiling for like 25 years, and then I was sort of like, this is someone to work on. And eventually I've sort of slowly got round to making her laugh at the odd thing, so... But that's, I don't know, it's a stupid thing with me, really. It's like, it's a character flaw, but it's also a challenge, like someone doesn't laugh at you, like, well, like, I'm supposed to be funny, so I'm going to break you.
I'm going to make you be happy.
Claire said to me recently, she said, you don't really like people that don't find you funny. And I was just like, well, obviously. Like, of course not.
Why would I like anyone that doesn't find me funny?
Exactly. If someone doesn't laugh at me, then obviously I'm not going to like them as much. Clearly. That makes me sound like a petty, small individual in some ways. It's just like, I don't know, do you know what I mean? Like, of course I'm not going to. It's like, if you're going to hang around someone and, like, you're going to crack jokes even if you're not, a comedian, you just, like, so if they don't laugh at anything you say, well, how are they going to be as good company? They're not, are they?
Yeah. Doesn't mean you don't like them, it just means maybe you don't like them as much. Oh, right.
Something's wrong with them. They're wasted energy, like, I could turn it some other directions.
Right, I think I'm going to get going now.
Yeah, you should do. Okay, so I'll probably see you in like 40 minutes or something. So.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you would like to know about the other niyamas, we've been covering them the last few weeks. So that's from episode 7 onwards. So if you've not heard those, then they're obviously wherever you found this, as well as all of our other episodes. And if you haven't heard any of those, then what are you doing? Hurry up, get binging. Also, I haven't mentioned this before, but it's in the show notes, so it's sort of there, but I haven't said anything. Obviously, the podcast is completely free, but if you have been listening for a while and would like to, I believe the terminology is buy us a coffee, like on a totally voluntary basis, if that's something you want to do. If you do go to the show notes or my social media, you can find a link to my Ko-Fi site, which is a website which allows you to donate the equivalent of a cup of coffee if you so want to do so. If you do it, please comment with your donation with the word podcast in there somewhere, so they know it's directly related to the show, and then it can go directly towards the hosting and the running costs, and then anything above that is split between us. Obviously that's a completely voluntary thing, just, some people might want to do that if they've been listening for a while, I don't know, other podcasts do it, or they have Patreon accounts. We don't have one of those, maybe we'll in the future, but at the moment we don't, so that's the avenue you would use if you wanted to support financially in any way, which of course you don't have to, because it is free, but it's something that people might want to do. And I haven't mentioned it before, but I thought I would in the most awkward and long-winded way that I possibly could, as is rather on brand. Anyway, next time we talk about the idea of free will, which is a really interesting topic, so don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss that. What else do podcasters say? Yeah, share, press that button, follow our accounts, ask us questions if you want via the internet. All that, anything you want us to talk about in future, get in touch. So seriously, thank you. I hope you love the show and that it's adding something of value to your life and that you laugh at it and stuff. Right, congratulations for making it this far into the message. It's the longest one in the world, isn't it? Right, bye.